Things just took a major turn for the Milwaukee Bucks as we have multiple huge Bucks updates to go over today ahead of what's going to be a crazy series against the Indiana Pacers. Doc Rivers has come out and dropped some huge details surrounding a couple of key players, including one that has fans absolutely fired up. We're going to break that down and discuss what it means going forward. But before we get into it, if you're part of the percentage who aren't subscribed to the channel, this is the place to be for daily Bucks content. Your guys' support has been unbelievable. We're on the road to 3,000 subscribers, and that is just around the corner. So if you want to help us towards that goal, make sure to smash that subscribe button. Thank you guys again for your continued support. Ladies and gentlemen, there's a ton of things to go over. Now, obviously, a couple days ago, we had some updates surrounding Damian Lillard. Shams, of course, came out and dropped a bombshell report about him returning, all these different things. We'll dive into that a little bit as we have some other updates there. But there's one key player that is going to be really important in this Bucks playoff run, and a lot more important than a lot of fans may have thought originally, and that is, and I've seen you guys commenting about him in the comment section, Jericho Sims, and a report had dropped that Jericho Sims is likely available for the first round of the playoffs. The trade deadline, big man acquisition, is returning from his thumb injury. Now, a bunch of different things to go over with this, but let's dive right into what Doc Rivers has said. And this was, of course, a couple days ago. We also have some new updates from today and yesterday. But as the Milwaukee Bucks gear up for the start of their first playoff round series against the Indiana Pacers later this week, we've, of course, gotten multiple updates. Damian Lillard was deemed a miss for the start of the playoffs earlier, and we covered that on the channel. It is very unfortunate, but it's most likely that he's going to be missing the start. And he is going to be missing the start of the playoffs. The other Bucks sidelined by injury who has been eyeing a possible return for the postseason is Jericho Sims. Per Coach Doc Rivers, you can see the tweet here. He believes Sims will be available versus the Pacers. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this is big, big news. Of course, Damian Lillard is going to be taking the headlines. He's going to be the bigger piece of actual news, of course, as it comes to headlines and all these different things. But Jericho Sims is going to play a crucial part in this Milwaukee Bucks playoff run, especially if they go far. Now, of course, he had been sidelined for a while. Of course, everyone was wondering, is he going to be able to return in the regular season? Is he going to be able to then return in the playoffs? And there was a lot of murkiness about his playoff, status. And Doc Rivers came out and basically said, and if you actually, read between the lines, watch the interview, he is going to be ready to go for game one against the Indiana Pacers, which is not only very big news, it's just a positive step in the right direction. In order for a team to, go far in any of the playoff runs, you need to have health. And of course, the Milwaukee Bucks are dealing with injuries to Damian Lillard. And I see some of you guys in the comments saying the Bucks are better off without Dame. I don't think that is the case by any means, but regardless, I'll digress. For this video, Doc Rivers does believe that Sims will be available for the playoffs, which is big, big news. Now, you look at specifically, let's look at the Bucks depth chart first, and I have some very interesting stats surrounding Jericho Sims and how he's fit alongside Giannis, how he's fit alongside the Milwaukee Bucks since being acquired from the Knicks. So, of course, with Dame out, they're going to be running a lineup of either KPJ or Ryan Rollins, Taurean Prince, Kyle Kuzma, Giannis Antetokounmpo, and Brook Lopez, with their backup center essentially being Bobby Portis. Now, of course, on this depth chart, you don't see Jericho Sims. Now it's been updated, and now Jericho Sims, of course, will be there. The Bucks basically don't have a backup actual big man. Of course, whether you want to consider Bobby Portis, backup center, a bit undersized, all these different things, Jericho Sims is going to be playing the role if Indiana goes big, or if they just want to run big lineups themselves, Doc Rivers and the Bucks, you're going to have to run Jericho Sims there if Brook Lopez gets in foul trouble, or if you just want a defensive-minded big man that is a lot more agile. And of course, the Pacers play a fast style of basketball. They run the floor. They have a high-octane offense, one of the best facilitators in the game in Tyrese Halliburton, one of the best transition players in the game in Pascal Siakam, and a good post player. And Jericho Sims matches up perfectly with a lot of the players on the Pacers, whether that be Siakam. Of course, Miles Turner and Brook Lopez line up pretty good together, but Jarris Walker, Obi Toppin, all these different guys, Pascal Siakam, Aaron Nesmith, who are going to put there, Jericho Sims will fit very, very well. And you can see this article that dropped. Jericho Sims' return could be useful as the Bucks take on the Pacers. And it's very true. Returning big man can be exactly what the Bucks need against the Pacers. And of course, they've missed him since he underwent his thumb surgery. Let's dive into this a little bit. It was obvious why Jericho Sims fit in so well in the Milwaukee after coming over in a trade deadline deal. This team desperately needed some athletic ability in the front court next to Giannis, is what I discussed previously. And of course, with Sims, he provides shot blocking, switching capabilities, and the ability to catch lob passes. And that's why it hurt so much when he was sidelined last month in March. Initial reports have suggested from the beginning that Sims will be back in the lineup for the playoffs. And of course, that is going to be the case. And if he makes his return to the playoffs, it comes at the perfect time as the Bucks could use this type of spark. And that's exactly what I'm saying. Brook Lopez provides what he provides. He's a solid rim protector. He's not super agile, but he's a big body. You can throw at guys like, of course, Miles Turner. I mean, maybe obviously Nikola Jokic is going to score against every big man in the game. But having a big body to throw Nikola Jokic, Brook Lopez can be helpful there. And Brook Lopez can be helpful sometimes at paint defense and help side defense. What Jericho Sims provides is, of course, help side defense as well, but that's not why they got him. They got him for his switching capabilities, guarding the pick and roll, because if teams like the Pacers come out and start trying to abuse specifically Brook Lopez in the pick and roll with, let's say, Tyrese Halliburton and Pascal Siakam. If they're running a pick and roll against, Brook Lopez, or even, Tyrese Halliburton and Miles Turner, more like Pascal Siakam, if they try to get the switch on Miles Turner, switch on Brook Lopez, and then try to run the pick and roll against Brook Lopez, that's going to be very difficult to contain. However, if you now have Jericho Sims in the lineup, he's going to be able to provide some very good defense to the point where they're not going to attack Jericho Sims. Now, of course, the trade-off then becomes offensively. How is he going to mesh in offensively? He can't shoot the ball. He's not really a threat to shoot the ball. However, you look at some of the advanced analytics, and like I mentioned, the Pacers play with extreme pace. They are young, fast, agile, and Jericho Sims fits perfectly with them. He's only 26 years old, and they give them a different look defensively. Now, am I saying that Jericho Sims is going to come out and play 40 minutes a game for the Bucks? Absolutely not. If he gives 15, 20 minutes a game, gives Brook Lopez a break, helps Doc Rivers show, of course, Rick Carlisle and the Pacers, just a different look out there. And specifically, you're going to need to do that against a fairly young but fast-paced Indiana Pacers team that are coming, and they're going to come and try to beat the Milwaukee Bucks in transition. And that's not where the Bucks thrive. And of course, they're not going to thrive if they get beat in transition. If you go in a fast-paced, high-octane offense game against the Indiana Pacers, especially at a time where you don't have Damian Lillard, who helps facilitate some of the half-court offense, you're going to be in very, very tough, right? You're going to be in extremely tough. However, if you can come out and contain them, you'll be good to go. And let's look at some of the advanced analytics here. In 32 minutes, the two-man of Antetokounmpo and Sims pairing boasts an impressive defensive rating of 83.6. Taking it a step further, the five-man lineup of Giannis, Taurean Prince, Gary Trent Jr., Kevin Porter, and Jericho Sims has a defensive rating of 63.6, the second best on the team among lineups to log at least 10 minutes. Lineups with these two clamp down defensively. And again, I don't think he's going to take minutes away from Portis or Lopez, but Doc Rivers can use Jericho Sims in certain spots, 5 to 10 minutes a game, maybe a little bit more. Again, 20 minutes a game is only going to be that I mentioned earlier, of course, the aforementioned 20 minutes. That's only going to be if someone gets in foul trouble, right? Otherwise, Jericho Sims is going to be playing behind Brook Lopez, going to be playing behind Bobby Portis. But at the same time, the aforementioned 20 minutes is going to be, or not even 20 minutes, 5 to 10 minutes is going to be plenty for a guy like Jericho Sims, who, as we have mentioned, he's coming off of an injury. And that's something else to keep in mind. He's going to be rusty. Is he going to be as athletic? Probably. Hopefully, can contain and, remain athletic. But he's going to be rusty offensively, of course. You can't just throw a young player into the playoffs fresh off an injury after not playing for a month and expect him to be fantastic in a postseason game. But at the same time, he has all the intangibles in the world here. They acquired him from the Knicks. And I think they're at a point now where not only are they going to be good to go as it pertains to once Damian Lillard comes back, but I think they can take care of business against the Indiana Pacers with or without Dame, and having Jericho Sims helps a lot more than a lot of Bucks fans not only expect, but I think he's going to be a very valuable contributor, or at least a weapon off of the bench if they need him. And maybe this will be a case where they don't need him, and Doc Rivers won't need to use him. They're abusing the Pacers at their own game, using Brook Lopez and Bobby Portis. But in the odd case that they do need him, you have an athletic big off the bench, which is exactly why John Horst went out and acquired him at the trade deadline. But that'll wrap it up. Let me know down below what your thoughts are. A ton of new news coming. We're going to keep you up to date with all the latest news and all the way through the postseason. Make sure to hit the subscribe button. Cheers.